Hey, what's up? I'm Tim Warner, host of the Inform IT Certification Reference Guide. Thanks for joining me on this OnCertification screencast entitled Test Taking Skills Clinic, VMware VCP, Exam VCP-310. Sorry about this extra zero. Stuff happens. Our agenda for this screencast is to identify my recipe for IT certification exam success. If you've watched some other of my test-taking skills clinics, I'm going to sound like a broken record. However, I think it's valuable information, so listen up, friends. We'll then introduce our source text from which I've pulled 2 practice questions. We're going to look at those questions with the discerning eye of the test taker. Therefore, the skills you're going to build aren't so much tied to the VCP exam in particular, but instead can be applied to any IT certification test. We'll finish by my providing you my contact information in case you have any questions for me specifically. In order to succeed on your IT certification exams, I hold that you need to have mastery of the following 4 skill sets. You need to understand the theoretical underpinnings of the technology under consideration. Makes sense. A lot of this is going to involve some preliminary memorization. You need to have the basic vocabulary under your belt before you can start slinging it around, and applying it in a practical sense. Number 2, you have to have that practical hands-on experience to take the theory and turn it into something applicable. Number 3, most certification exams, the CISSP certification exam is an exception, which is a pen and paper test. Most exams are computer-based, and they're a different animal, of course, than from taking a pen and paper exam, and therefore require a different set of skills and expectations. And finally, and most importantly, you have to have some critical thinking skills with regard to taking a computer-based test or just an IT certification test in general. Our source text for this screencast is the exam cram title VCP, VMware Certified Professional. Now, becoming a VMware Certified Professional is not an inexpensive process. It requires you taking VMware Certified training and can cost upwards to $3,000. So why purchase an exam cram title? Well, if you're going to invest that much dough in earning a single certification, why not spend another $30 just to hedge your bet and make sure you pass the dadgum exam the first time? The author is a guy named Elias Nazer, and the book has been published at the end of 2008. It sells really well, it's written really well, and it's filled with good content, even if I do say so myself. This title is available as a physical product through a brick and mortar store or maybe through an online purchase, or if you're a Safari Books Online subscriber, you can read it that way. The author, Elias Nazer, is a software developer, a speaker, an author, kind of a all-around Renaissance man, so to speak, in the IT world. In particular, he's got expertise in VMware. His website is eliasnazer.com. I would go there if I were you if you wanted to learn more about him. Onward and upward. Practice question number 1. This question says you want to deploy a VMware consolidated backup solution on your network. Which of the following are true statements of VCB? Choose 3. And we're just given a huge run of answer choices. How do we approach this? The reason I selected this item is to dispel some common myths with regard to these what are called multiple answer, multiple choice items. If you think there's any mojo to how a test developer selects which of these choices are correct, please get over yourselves. And I mean that in an entirely loving way, friends. Many times, these answer choices wind up getting shuffled or randomized. So if you think, well, if A's correct, then B must be incorrect. Or it must be A, C, E, because the test writer must definitely not put 2 correct answers next to each other. Or if A's correct, F has to be correct. Don't think like that. Believe me, I've written thousands of these questions myself. You're not thinking that way as an exam developer. You're really not. Or if you are, at least initially, any logic that you're thinking of when you're writing these questions gets thrown up the flue, up the old chimney, when the exam engine shuffles these choices. What you want to be considered with, or what you want to be concerned with, is how many correct answers you're looking for at the end of the day, and you want to be looking for keywords. Look here, entire, single, single guest, single guest. They are kind of grouped in this case. Now those are some patterns that might make more sense. Instead of getting hung up on the position of the choices, look at groupings in terms of the words. If you've got two choices that both deal with entire virtual machines, but one says entire virtual machines can be backed up by using VCP, and the other one that says entire virtual machines can be backed up using third party, then you might be asking yourself, well, maybe one of these is correct, and actually A is correct. You see C and D, they talk about single VMDKs. Again, VCP and third party. Of these, C is correct. And E and F, single guest files, and E is correct. So those are the kind of patterns you want to look for. And this is definitely kind of a gimme item once you start to spot those patterns. So it's a question of patterns do exist in a lot of these items, friends. You just want to look for the right kinds of patterns. And the patterns lie in the words, not arbitrary stuff like A, B, C, D. Let's look at the second question. This says, which of the following is a correct representation of an iSCSI target ID using the following data? Many certification exam questions will give you some output for you to analyze. The purpose of this, of course, is to test whether you know how to interpret real output from the appropriate gear. And you'll notice in the choices here, it's asking you to understand how iSCSI target ID syntax works. The reason I chose this one is you have to take the content up on the top here and form a target ID string. Remember that on your certification tests, you get either real pen and paper or, which I don't like, those dry erase sheets and a dry erase marker. You may need it for an item like this. You can take the data that they give you, in this case date, domain, alternate name, and host name, and just don't even look at the choices. Write out your iSCSI target ID to the very best of your knowledge, and then compare it with the choices. Trust your knowledge. Trust that you know what you're doing. Don't just put blind faith in those answer choices. Contact information is as follows. timothy.warner@pearson.com. Please feel free to ping me with any questions, comments, concerns, curiosities, complaints, or any other Q or C word. You can find me at informit.com/OnCertification. I'm also very active at Twitter, twitter.com/OnCertification. Thanks very much for taking the time to watch this screencast. Appreciate it.